People often ask me, how can I start and build relationships with small business government contractors that are winning at a target agency? Sometimes I'm the one who's suggesting that very question, right? That maybe you should be thinking about starting and building relationships with small business government contractors who are winning at your target agency. It's a great question that they ask. It's a great piece of advice that I drive forward, because working with small business government contractors who are in the agency that you want to support and you want to sell your products and services to, working with the small businesses that are already in there winning is a great way for you to begin to get traction. It's a great way for you to hear about opportunities and land opportunities that you can put into your pipeline, that you can push all the way through to a quote or a proposal that could lead to a win, right? And this comes from knowing people like small business government contractors who are already in there winning. You can build these relationships with them. You may hear me sometimes say, and you certainly hear me say it today, is dig your well before you're thirsty. Don't wait until you're thirsty to dig the well. Dig the well before you're thirsty. And when you build relationships ahead of time, this is going to lead to future success, future teaming, future opportunities you can hear about. And it can also potentially lead to you supporting current contracts those people you're reaching out to have. So a small business, by the way, it can go from 0 to, let's say, 50, 60 million before they start topping out on the small business. Well, guaranteed those companies doing 5 to 50 million have contracts that may have room for you in there. It doesn't mean you get in there right away and ask for it, but when you have these relationships, they start seeing you as a company they might consider for adding to their existing team, not just future teams, right? But all of it comes with when you start relationships. Okay, so let's dive down into today's specifically about the relationships around small business prime contractors who are in federal agencies. Because when you have these relationships, small business primes are going to open doors within the federal agency that you want to get into. Today's topic, how to start and build relationships with small business prime contractors, is going to be broken down into 4 sections with a little bit of live demo. All right, so the first thing I want to just talk about is, why is it important to build these relationships with small business prime contractors or winners at an agency? The second thing I want to talk about is just briefly, when is the right time to be building these relationships? Third, we'll talk about which small businesses, how do you identify, first off, like what type of small business I want to reach out to, and then which small businesses do I want to reach out to, and then which people within those small businesses do we reach out to? So I'm going to show you that. I'll talk to you about it, and then I'll go in and I'll show you how I actually do it. So that'll get you started. And then the last thing I want to leave you with is just some tips for success on starting to build those relationships with small business prime contractors. So if that's what you're here to learn about, put relationships rock in the chat. Relationships rock in the chat. If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonnell. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce. I'm co-founder of GovCon in a Box, and I want to welcome you to my federal sales training, where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years in the federal market as a small business owner, and since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret, it's just a process. When we follow a process A to Z, we're going to have repeatable, predictable results, and this is what I want for you. This is why I do this training. And you can have repeatable, predictable results around building relationships with small business prime contractors. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to our newsletter, Government Contracting Success Newsletter. Also, if you already are subscribed, consider pushing this out to other people. Don't keep us a secret, right? It's a process, not a secret. So part of the process is letting others know about a newsletter that you value, people you value hearing from. So if you're already subscribing today, maybe you can push that newsletter out to other people. Let them know about it. Thank you for those of you who registered for training today. We had well over 100 people register for today's training. Tomorrow's training is going to be similar to today, except for today we're talking about small business prime contractors. Tomorrow I'm going to talk about how do you engage large prime contractors? How do you start and build relationships with those folks? And so we'll dive into that training tomorrow. Make sure you register for it. You can find it right here on LinkedIn. That's where we do all the registration. I want to congratulate SR Fed and Kira, who just joined the 100 Club. I think it was yesterday when they joined. The 100 Club, if you don't know, is a club around your federal visibility score. You can have a score of 0 or I guess 1 to 100, right? And SR Fed and 85 other companies have a 100 score, a perfect score for federal visibility. What this means is that they've done what they need to do in the federal buyer tools to be as visible to the federal buyers. It doesn't mean you're getting a contract. It just means if the government buyer is looking for a company like yours, you potentially are coming up in those search results. You have done what you need to do to be visible to the federal buyer. And so if you haven't already checked your score and begun to improve it, go to govconinabox.com. We're getting close to 1,000 people who are in there and working on their scores and improving it. And I'd love to have you in there and get you added to the 100 Club. You can talk to some of these people in the 100 Club, and they'll tell you how the guidance that we provide makes it pretty quick and easy for you to increase your score to 100. And again, that's a free functionality. The whole thing is. So let's talk about why are small business relationships important? Why is it important to have relationships with small business government contractors who are winning in your target agency? Here are some of the main reasons. But one of the things I wanted to point out is when I say it's important to have relationships with small businesses, I'm talking about small business winners. If they're not winning in your target agency, then they're less of a strategic relationship and more a part of your network. That's totally fine, right? Sometimes I'm in somebody's network as just a person right here. Other times I'm really important to their growth and I'm a strategic relationship with them. So I'm never judging anybody. I'm just saying when you look to small business government contractors that you're trying to target and build relationships with, make sure they're winners in the agency you want to go after. This means that they're already winning contracts. And this is one of the first reasons it's so valuable to have these relationships. You want to get into an agency or further into an agency by teaming up with small business, or excuse me, not teaming up, but by building a relationship with a small business that's already in there. You're connecting with somebody who's already a winner in there. They're already proposing to the government and winning contract awards, right? And that's really important. When the government awards a contract to a company, that government or that relationship is one of trust now. The government trusts that small business. If you can start building a relationship with that small business that's winning, you're going to get some of that borrowed credibility by being near that winner when you get introduced to other people, right? And this goes to my second point on why it's important to have these relationships, is that these small business winners, they already know the contracting officer. They already know perhaps several contracting officers, and they understand how to work with the acquisition shop. They can talk to you about that, and they can also bring you in and make an introduction. Maybe they're making a joint intro. We've done this before where we've gone in with another company saying, hey, these guys do this, we do this. Together we're talking about some ideas. It doesn't mean we're teaming on an opportunity just yet, but it means we're able to borrow some of their relationship. When you think about the difference between a cold call and a warm call, this is literally it. Small business already winning in an agency can make those warm intros to the contracting officer. They can also make introductions to the program office personnel. If they're working, in today's example, I'm going to show you this, but I'm going to use SharePoint. That was my last company, so I'll use SharePoint as my example. But if I want to get into a program office related to SharePoint, then I'm going to find small business winners that are in similar type work so that I can go in and the people in the program offices that they know are related. Compare that to somebody who's a little farther away. Let's say somebody is doing pharmacy at the VA, but I'm doing IT. Well, their relationships aren't really going to know mine. I could still work that relationship, but I'd much rather start with small businesses that are winning, and I'll talk about this in a minute, in similar space. But they know the program office personnel in addition to the contracting personnel, which means your chances of getting introductions go up. Another reason why it's important to have these relationships with small business winners at federal agencies, small business primes, is that they're familiar with the agency. They're familiar with some of the policies and the way they do business. Simple things like even just security. If you go to DOD, security is one way. If you go to DHS, it's another way. You want to be able to work with people who can guide you through simple things like that, like let's call it housekeeping type stuff. And then they also are familiar with major systems that they use or contract vehicles that are being used, all that kind of stuff. Because these people are already winners in that agency and already selling into that agency, trying to understand the agency themselves, you can borrow a lot of that learning that they have done over the months and years so that you can accelerate your learning process. And the last thing to keep in mind about these small business prime contractors is they are competimates, right? So 1 minute they're a competitor and 1 minute they're a teammate. So we blend that together and we call it a competitimate, right? And so these people are competitive mates, and you want to find people really as closely as possible to complementary services, right? Because then you can go after stuff and you're not often competing directly. So I had a SharePoint company before. If I team up with a company that's all they do, now we're always competing, right? I mean, we could still team on stuff, but it's so much better if I do floors and you do painting type of thing, right? So hopefully that makes sense. But these are just some reasons on why it's important to build relationships with small businesses. When you think about when's the best time to get started, there's this great line about when's the best time to plant an oak tree, right? Those humongous oak trees. When's the best time to plant that? 20 years ago. The second best time to plant it? Today. And building relationships with small business primes, it's the same thing. When's the best time to plant it? Today. Just get started, right? Start digging your well before you're thirsty, before you even know really what you need them for. And I'll talk about how to choose the right people in a minute. But the ideal times that you're really thinking about when these relationships and when you're starting new relationships fit in two main areas: business development and capture. So I say that business development is getting in and understanding an agency, building relationships, and finding opportunities. Capture is about one single opportunity driving it forward. So that's the difference between the two. So in business development, if I'm in an agency already, like let's say the Army, but I want to go into another command, then I might look over to that other command and find small businesses that are winning over there and see if we can talk, et cetera. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But that's one way, right? Is I want to get into an agency I'm already in further. Another one is if I'm trying to get into a whole different agency. I did this with a large prime contractor a few years back, but same concept, right? They wanted to get in to a particular Navy command, which was really interesting to me when I saw even larges do this, but they really didn't have any awards in there and they didn't have any relationships. And so they just saw it as a smart path to go find winners. And in their case, they found it was easier to go knock on small business doors and get relationships than to knock on their direct competitors, billion-dollar firm to billion-dollar firm. But the point is, if you're trying to go after a whole new agency, a whole new department, this is a perfect time to start trying to build relationships with new small business winners at that target agency. As it relates to capture, what you want to do is when you're looking at an opportunity, it's a great time to look into that agency and maybe even focus it down as much as you can to the, as close to the program office as possible. But you want to start building relationships that can teach you about that program office, right? Sometimes you build a relationship and you want to learn about the agency or even the department. But other times for capture, you're really trying to narrow down into a particular program office and what's going on in the IT world, if that's what you're going after. So that's a good time to build relationships. Hey, really quick, before I talk about how to build those relationships, just a reminder, next week on Monday, the 28th, we're doing virtual networking right here on LinkedIn through Zoom. We're going to bring together a whole bunch of people and allow you to network. We've done it multiple times in a row. It is awesome. Everybody who's participated in it loved it, great reviews. And the thing that I like most is that people were able to come in and in an hour network with a whole bunch of other people and to be able to go away and have one-off meetings, or they learned something they hadn't learned about an agency, etc. It's also a great way to come practice your pitch over and over again as you go into different networking rooms in the hour. You can practice your pitch multiple times. As you improve telling it to me and to others in the network, you're improving it to telling federal buyers. Go to govconinAbox/networking to register. You can find a link right there that will take you there. Okay, so let's talk about which small businesses and who. I've got about 13 minutes left in today's training. The first thing, most important when you think about which businesses, is narrow down to one target agency. When you're building relationships and you're doing any kind of outreach activity, even if you want to go to multiple places, don't start off by trying to go to multiple places at the same time. If you focus on one agency, the effort you do, you begin to learn around it. And as you do that, you're also able to get people who know each other and make introductions to other people. So you might build a target list going into that target agency, so a bunch of people's names, but you can expand that list of names by the people those folks introduce you to. So pick one agency. You're going to go into USA Spending, and I'll show you in a second live how I do it. So we'll go into USA Spending, we'll find the winners, and then we'll go into DSBS, we'll find the points of contact for that company. And then the last thing is we would go to build a target list of 100 companies. And in this case, what I mean by that is if I want to go into the Navy, then I want to build a list of 100 small business prime contractors, winners in the Navy, so that I've got a good amount of people. When you reach out to people, some people aren't going to respond. Some people will say no, right? Some people will say yes. And so you want a big enough list that you have enough room to get yes. And 100 is the minimum you want when you're doing basically cold call outreaching. Okay, so let me switch over back to here. Let me drag that guy. Hopefully you can see my browser. I'm going to watch this for 1 second. So we're going to go into USA spending. This is the first place. And I'm going to do this very fast. You can watch the replay. But I'm going to USA spending, and they've had this bug for weeks. And in here, I'm just going to do some basic searching. So I want to look at FY23 and 24, and I'll show you this filter in a second. I want to look at award types, and let's say contracts, because all I want to see is people who have won contracts. The recipient type here, I'm looking for small business. And so I'm saying recipient type, small business. And the last thing I'm going to do is I want to do SharePoint. So I want to get in and do SharePoint. And something I thought about was, I think help desk, people who are doing IT support on help desk, my printer, my computer. Well, those people are in the same world, but they're not direct competitors. And so I thought to myself, let me search in that particular area. While it's filtering, just a reminder, right here, you can see the 4 filters I did. I said, I just want to look at FY23 and 24. So people who have won contracts in 23 and 24. I only want to look at contracts. I don't want to look at grants or anything else. And then I'm looking for only small businesses. So if I come down here, as this thing is loading, this is the area I want. Results by category. It's going to take a second to come up because this is live. It is what it is. What I want is to sort this by recipient. So I changed the category from by agency to by recipient. And by doing this, now I'm able to see a bunch of companies right here. And this is what I want you to do. You can see all these companies. Hopefully that's pretty clear. I mean, look at these guys, 1.5 billion, and they're small. That makes something seems odd in Denmark to me on that. And so let me give you another quick filter. Just I could go in and I could figure it out. It could be an A and C. It could be whatever. What I want to do is come back here and say, look, I want, let's say 1 to 25 million, right? And I'm going to rerun this search really quick. Let me zoom out and then I'll come back in. So I'm saying run this search again, and I want to see those recipients. And so now I'm looking. Oh, that's funny. It's not. Well, this is USA spending having a bug. I just literally said I only want to see the smaller ones. But anyways, you get my point. What I want are recipients that are doing, let's say 5 to 30, 40 million, because those are truly small. But it doesn't matter. I mean, if you want to reach out to these guys, the reason I don't like these bigger ones, and sorry about this, I just got to click to get to smaller ones. Actually, let me just change this guy. I'm changing the filter down to even 1 million. Let's see if that gets me to smaller, because I want to find companies that are true small businesses. A company doing 40 million plus, they're already getting ready to exit, right? They're on their way out. If you're doing billions, I have no idea why you're coming up as a small business. And that's a whole separate thing. But I can come here. And so now I'm still looking at this. This is just staggering that the tool is not working. I apologize for that. But let me pick one. As long as we got it, I'll just take this guy. It's Supply Core. Let's open a couple of these little guys. So I'm just opening them really quick. And when I open it up, the reason I'm opening up their individual profiles within USA Spending is I want to get their UEI, whichever one pops up first. This is killing me. By the way, if I go over here, I could get the same thing. So let's see if these guys are in there. This is Supply Core. Let's see if they're truly a small business. This is GovCon in a box. This is where I can find a lot of information, but Supply Core, I think they've got to be too big. Supply Core LLC. So these guys. And so this stuff's loading, but what I would want to see is their DSBS profile. Let me come down. Yeah, I have no idea why they're coming up as billions. Okay, I'm going to have to pause because this is live training. And oh, here we go. Well, so anyways, see this? Look at this. These guys are an 8A company, right? And this is a company we're talking to. They did $418 million in the last 12 months. if I look at these guys and see how big they are, and it looks like they're selling a lot of products, right? So I forgot to filter that out. But if I come down and look at all fiscal years, right, I can see what these guys have been doing. This is too big for me. But what I was just trying to say really quick, let's say I am looking for them. I'm going to go over to DSBS. So I'm grabbing their UEI. I'm coming to DSBS. And inside of DSBS, I'm just putting it here. Control V, Control Enter. Here's New Tech. There's Rajesh. And right there, I'm just showing you that I can come in and find the point of oh man, that's hilarious. I can find the point of contact here. I can find their email and I can find their phone number, right? And so very quickly, I can find this information we're looking for. So when you're going after trying to find small businesses, go into USA Spending. I could have filtered that down much more, and I probably should have, but oh well, it's live. I could have filtered it down by the agency I was saying I was trying to go after. I could have filtered it down by the NAICS code or something more than just the keyword, because apparently the keyword was giving me too many companies. But you get the point, right? Go into USA Spending, filter it down, find the UEI of a company you want to reach out to, get their contact information from DSBS, repeat this 100 times, and you have a target list of 100 companies. Okay, very quickly, here's some tips for reaching out. So you've got all these people's names, right? And you got a spreadsheet with names, numbers, and emails, and you're going to reach out to them. The very first thing is do not spam them, right? Sometimes we call this mail merging, right? But mail merging is spamming. People can sit there and say, oh, it's efficient. I know it's efficient, but you're not trying to be efficient. You're trying to build a relationship, right? You wouldn't go out dating in a mail merge kind of way, trying to reach out. Why would you do it with a company that you're trying to build a long-term relationship with? We talk about when you team up with a company and you get on a contract together with them, you're kind of having a marriage in government contracting. It's that same level of commitment. I mean, not exactly the same, but you get my point. So don't spam it. Have you and your team do it one at a time so that you know who those people are. Make sure you understand, do they go by Tom or Thomas? Even in DSBS, it might say Thomas Payne, but maybe it goes by Tom Payne. And if you took 2 seconds to just understand that, then you've gotten yourself past that spammy type way. The second thing is when you're reaching out, try to be obviously related. If you're a painter, don't reach out to a cybersecurity company and vice versa. But if you can reach out and say something like, hey, we do SharePoint. I noticed you guys specialize and have a lot of contracts in help desk. We thought there'd be a really complementary set of services. Can we get 15 minutes to talk? When you're reaching out, number 3, be humble, right? I like reaching out, even as experienced as I am. Look, I'm very experienced here, but I haven't done work in Department of Energy. I'd love to talk to you about subcontracting with you over the next couple of years as I begin to learn that agency or something. I'm saying I recognize you're the expert. Not lose-win, not letting them win and I lose kind of thing, but just a little bit of they're the domain authority and recognizing that for number 3. Number 4, when you send emails, make sure it's brief, very concise. I've got examples, whole set of trainings. In my newsletter, I've got a great article about how to take a big email and shrink it down to just the most important thing. But you want to be brief and concise. And in particular, when you're doing this type of outreach, you only have one ask. Your ask is, can we get a 15-minute meeting? Don't ask about anything else. If you do, then the discussion will go that way. Or they'll go, I'll get back to it. But if you have one ask, you make it easy for them to say yes or no. That's all you want. Just get an answer. Doesn't matter whether the answer is no. You need no's to get yeses. Number 6, have one goal. So when you meet with them, don't try to sell. Don't try to get on a contract they already have or any of these things. Try to build a relationship. And the way you build a relationship is say, hey, I thought this 15 minutes went well. How about we have another meeting, right? And that's your one goal in the meeting. We call it an objective. Your objective in this case, not even an NDA. Can we have a follow-on meeting? Maybe explore it a little further, talk about some opportunities. Today was just, is there an initial feeling of it seems worthwhile to keep talking? Okay, here's what I want you to remember from today's training. First thing is when you're starting and building relationships with small business government contractors who are winning at an agency, pick one agency that you can really dive into on USA Spending to find those winners. Identify 100 winners in that agency, the name of the company, the people. Number 3, reach out to these people one at a time, right? Not mail merge. One at a time, reach out to these people and try to schedule a 15-minute meeting. You do not need a 30-minute meeting. In 5 minutes, you'll get a feeling for it. In 10 or 15 minutes, you'll know for sure, right? And then you can schedule. When you say 15 minutes, it's a lot easier for them to say, okay, it sounds good. 15 minutes. What's the worst that can happen? I wasted 15 minutes. No big deal. So remember that. Let me know how that goes as you go forward. Make sure you look at my previous training because I talk a lot about how to have success when you're doing these outreach meetings. Don't forget to register for tomorrow's training. Today, I talked about how to find small businesses and small business points of contact in federal agencies you're trying to target. Tomorrow's training, it's going to be doing the same thing, but with larges. They're a whole different group because with smalls, it's usually business owners. So tomorrow, I'll talk about who do you target within a large. Hey, if you're doing 2 million plus and you've watched like 10 plus of our videos and you're interested in getting our support, we've got a couple of more slots for the BD Accelerator workshop that'll be starting in November. Let us know if you're interested by just putting workshop in the chat. Please don't put it in there unless you're doing like 2 million plus and you've watched a lot of my videos so that you already know you like our process and you want to learn about how you might be able to work with us. Otherwise, come back to my free training. I teach all the time. And the most important thing I teach is that government contracting, it is not a secret. It's just a process. I will see you in the next training.